keen observers of Kenyan politics will not have failed to notice that this Ruto administration and land, their issues. Because ever since Ruto took over the presidency until today, there has been too much drama over this issue of land, which of course has already been a very emotive issue in our country, and I dare add, also a very corrupt-ridden issue in our country. And of course the very latest is that Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, a very prominent member of the UDA party, had her church, Jesus is Alive Ministries, raided, and a section of the church, actually a wall, was brought tumbling down. And she even told us that there was damage to other church property, and even personal effects were snatched away, like phones. What? And it was all linked to land and property manenos. Yeah, you see, Ruto gave a directive recently that all illegally or dodgily acquired property and land be reclaimed back immediately. It was a directive to the Ministry of Lands. But before we dive into that, which is the main topic for my show today, I just have something to say about this Raila Odinga and African Union chairmanship job. Manenos. Now, further light has been shed on this issue, where Kenyans have been asking so many questions, by revelations, or rather leaks, from the summit meeting. Yeah, there's mere summit meeting before the presser, which I covered in my previous video. And it is very clear that politicians, leading lights within Azimio, I mean these are party leaders, because the summit is the highest decision-making body within Azimio. These leading politicians are as confused as the rest of us, yeah, about this Raila new job, AU job issue, and where it's going, and how it will leave our politics. In fact, they warned Raila to tread carefully with Ruto. But Raila's response, it was not even Ruto's idea. And of course it was not Raila's idea. Yeah, he told us he got the idea from a man called Obasanjo, yeah, former president of Nigeria. Actually a man with the distinction of being a president by courtesy of a military coup, and then later also again being president by being elected by the people in an election. Yeah, that's quite a unique distinction. So Raila told us that the whole idea emerged from Obasanjo. Now, even going by the tone of the meeting, a lot of what we have been saying on this channel, in my view, was confirmed. Most notably, the fact that there is no deal. Yeah, contrary to what is full in our media, in the press, on TV, that actually there's a warming up between Raila and Ruto. I think it was very clear from that leak, from the private summit meeting of Azimio, that there's no such thing. But much more interesting is the origin of this idea. Now Obasanjo is a military guy, is now a very old man, very old. And if you think that this old man woke up one morning and the idea struck him, Raila Odinga of Kenya can make a very good AU chairman, because we need somebody who is a politician. If you think that idea came from Obasanjo, you don't understand politics. I was going to say you should get your head examined. So, who did the idea come from? Who? And what was the objective? This is what is bothering Kenyans. Now, all this information, in my opinion, is confirming the contents of my highly sensitive special report that reveals the real movers and shakers behind what is happening in Kenyan politics. Yeah? And in a way I'm happy, because a lot of the stuff that I talked about in that special report will now be much more believable because of these latest developments. And by the way, you still have a chance. Shall I say this, the last call? Your last opportunity to get your hands on this super sensitive information. I'm really sorry, but a lot of that information I can never dare carry on this public channel. You have now the final opportunity. You can see details on your screens right now. Only Kenya shillings 19.99 or $13. You have the final opportunity of getting your hands on this super sensitive information, which will help you totally understand the very confusing, perplexing, puzzling things that are unfolding in our politics right now. In fact, I can tell you, you ain't seen nothing. Mambo bado. And when you understand the super sensitive things happening behind the scenes and the ones that have already happened, then you will be less surprised at what is coming. Okay? Anyway, I don't know if you know that Margaret Wanjiru, Bishop, is one of the most controversial politicians in our country. I'm not sure if you know that. I'm not sure if you know that in the year 2008, a man called James Kamangu emerged literally out of the woodwork to say that he was the husband to Margaret Wanjiru. He was still the husband. And he demanded for his conjugal rights. Hapo hapo. Now, of course, those who understand politics will not have failed to suspect that this was political. And they would not have failed to suspect that it was coming from Margaret Wanjiru's political rival, a man called Maina Kamanda, who Margaret Wanjiru had defeated in the 2007 general elections, for the parliamentary seat of Starehe. By the way, she was running then on an ODM ticket. Yes, ODM gave her a breakthrough, her start in politics. She later, of course, defected away from ODM. Anyway, Bwana Kamanda is one of these old school politicians from Nairobi who learned their politics the hard way and have always played their politics brutally. But even more fascinating, Bwana Kamangu died suddenly under very mysterious circumstances. By the way, if you're looking for more info on that Kshs, I have a detailed article in the Kumekucha blog, which I posted today. You can take a look at it and get all that information. Bishop Margaret Wanjiru was very key in introducing candidate Ruto to Nairobi voters, in popularizing him to sections of Nairobi voters. She even used her influence in the church to help create the situation which really favored Ruto, where the church was fully behind this candidate. Bottom line, she did a lot to get Ruto to where he is today. That is the truth. And so, it is more than puzzling that Margaret Wanjiru found herself in the situation she did, with her church, at least a section of it, being demolished. Now, simple logic. Margaret Wanjiru in the 2022 general elections was the UDA senatorial candidate for Nairobi, and she vied against the eventual winner, Bwana Edwin Sifuna, who garnered a total of 716,576 votes against Bishop Margaret Wanjiru's respectable 554,091. So, Nairobi being such an important county to any presidential candidate, Don't you think that the bishop has President Ruto's number? I would think she does. And then let us imagine the situation she was in. People call her and tell her, Bishop, people are demolishing the church. There are goons inside the church and people look like security people. Come quickly. If it was you in that situation, what is the first thing you'd have done? You'd have picked up your cell phone and made a few calls. Now the fact that she made those few calls and they could not stop what happened tells you a lot. And I believe it told Bishop Wanjiru a lot. Maybe she was living in a ndoto ya mchana. Yeah. Maybe she thought being in UDA, some certain things would not happen to her. But they did. Now, please allow me to take you back briefly into history. Yeah. And to the time when Margaret Wanjiru acquired the property which housed her ministry, Jesus is Alive Ministries. At that time I was a resident of Nairobi, and I used to frequent that area along Haile Selassie Avenue where this property is. And I can tell you, she did not get it easily. Indeed, I remember her main competitor to win that property was an Asian. But in the end, Margaret Wanjiru had a sensational victory. And in those days she had very limited resources. But by some miracle, she was able to get the property. Now, what does that tell us? When land is being grabbed somewhere, is it normal to have people competing for the same land? No, that's not how land is grabbed. Now don't get me wrong. Of course there is the possibility that there were some legal technicalities. Yeah, something was done which was not quite right. That is possible. But my point is, this piece of information tells us very clearly that there's something much more to this story. But that is not all. If you are the UDA government and you want people to take you seriously about your effort to reclaim all land which was acquired in the wrong way, don't you think you would start with the Western Hotel? Don't you think that's what you'd do? Don't you think that you'd put yourself in the danger of this whole thing having a serious backlash on you if the people suspected even for 1 minute that this thing was selective justice? I think so. But there's something else much more disturbing in this saga. Yeah? And I talked about it right at the beginning of my show today. You see, since this administration took over, we have had too much drama over land. On March 27th, 2023, some goons invaded the Kenyatta family Northlands farm, yeah, and made away with some expensive sheep from South Africa. You remember that incident? And fascinatingly, the police seemed to be powerless. They could do nothing. And then there's the case of Nakuru Memorial Hospital. Goons have invaded it, and again the police seem powerless. Court orders have been ignored, and nothing has happened to those people who have ignored the court orders. And I can go on and on. But maybe I should add one last example, which is more recent. The Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Alice Wahome, recently went to Loresho. Yeah? She was assisting some Kenyans to reclaim back their land as per an issued court order. And when she went into this property, which is said to be worth about 1.3 billion Kenya shillings, what? That is a lot of mandazi money, isn't it? And when she went into this property, somebody locked her in. Somebody locked the gate, trapping her inside momentarily. And there were goons all over the place. Goons against the court order which had already been issued. Yeah, granting the two gentlemen of Asian origin, access to their land. Now I believe the security detail of the cabinet secretary had to break the lock to rescue the CS. But my point is, what is going on? As far as land issues are concerned, who are these powerful forces who are more powerful than the courts, more powerful than the police? They can do what they want at the Nakuru Memorial Hospital, totally disregarding any court order, ignoring the police. That is what is happening in our country, and definitely it's not a good thing. Even if you want to reclaim land that you say was illegally acquired, you should do it with some decorum. You know, it just beats me how even in the same newspaper reporting this land drama, you will see a statement from somebody in government that the Kenyan shilling is going to strengthen against major currencies in a way we have never seen before. And I want to ask, how? Because when you have all this unfortunate drama over land issues, do you think foreigners in the country who own pieces of land, do you think they're comfortable? Of course not. And when investors are not comfortable, when businessmen are not comfortable, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to hold on to their dollars. Will that strengthen the Kenyan shilling? They're going to put a stop to any foreign currency coming into the country for expansion in their businesses because they're nervous. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Do you think they're going to aggressively move forward with their plans? No, of course not. And of course, this is the perfect situation when you create so much fear amongst investors. This is the perfect environment for capital flight. So how can you have all these things going on and then you expect the Kenyan shilling to strengthen? It will reach levels it has never reached before. How? Does that make sense to you? I don't know why it is so hard for people to understand simple logic. You don't even need to be an economist. You don't even need to have gone to school to understand this very simple logic. And it is very unfortunate because when these investors are running scared, cutting down on the operations in the country, it means loss of jobs for Kenyans who are already suffering, for Kenyans who are already under so much strain. There's some things I will never understand. And if you understand, please take time to explain to me in the comments area, because they don't just make sense. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.